This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, we're going to try this. It looks like the severe weather is slowing down, so I'm going to speak now 5-10 minutes. This way we don't have to do it there in the rain. Also, Be'ezus Hashem, we're going to pray. Within 5-10 minutes, it's going to stop anyway. And at the kever, we're going to save, the real core information. But now I'm going to give you a background where we're going. This is the Warsaw Cemetery. It is one of the largest Jewish cemeteries in all of Europe and in the entire world. There are more than 250,000 marked graves and mass graves of the victims of the Warsaw Ghetto. So my great-grandfather, Zecher Tzak Livracha, who is the Rav of the city of Sachachav, in all likelihood, this is where he's buried. Let me tell you the names of the Gedolim that we're going to visit here. Number one, the Chemdas Shloimeh. The Chemdas Shloimeh, Rav Shloimeh Zalman Lifshitz. We're going to be at his kever. Reb Aryeh Leib Tzins. If you see a random sefer in a shul, and you don't know who it's from, in all likelihood it's from Reb Aryeh Leib Tzins. And you want to see what a goyin he was? In his dying words, he says that anybody who helps publish his sefer, he promises great Yeshuas. So now he is the most published author of any of the Gedolim, because everybody wants a piece of the Segula. So we're going to the kever of Reb Aryeh Leib Tzins. Number 3, Reb Yaakov Gesundheit, the Tiferes Yaakov. Reb Yaakov Gesundheit, chief rabbi of Warsaw, from 1870 to 1874. And then 2 of the most notable, all-time great Gaonim Gedolei Yisrael, the Netziv, Reb Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, and Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, they were both Rosh Yeshivas in Volozhin, and they're buried next to each other. I want to tell you a little bit now about the Netziv and about Reb Chaim. The Netziv was born in 1817 in the city of Mir. His father was Reb Yaakov Berlin, who is a well-known Talmid Chacham. At 13 and a half, this is very important history to know, the Netziv becomes the son-in-law of Reb Chaim Volozhiner's son. So you have the Vilna Gaon. His student was Reb Chaim Volozhiner. His son was Reb Yitzchak of Volozhin. And his son-in-law is the Netziv. Now Reb Yitzchak of Volozhin, Reb Chaim Volozhiner started the Volozhiner Yeshiva. His son, Reb Yitzchak of Volozhin, took it over. At 13 and a half, Reb Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin becomes the son-in-law. He's, so to speak, the heir apparent to lead the biggest yeshiva in the world. However, the problem was he had an older brother-in-law, because Reb Yitzchak of Volozhin gave the older daughter to a Talmid Chacham by the name of Reb Eliezer Yitzchak. So, when Reb Yitzchak of Volozhin passed away in 1849, Reb Eliezer Yitzchak, the first son-in-law, is the top Rosh Yeshiva. The Netziv is second Rosh Yeshiva. But only 4 years later, the oldest son-in-law had an untimely passing. And the Netziv now takes over the mantle of the most important yeshiva in the entire world. The mother of all yeshivas, the Volozhin Yeshiva. All yeshivas today are offshoots modeled after the Volozhin Yeshiva. Now, question, I'm going to ask an opinion question. When the Netziv became the Rosh Yeshiva, do you think it was uncontested or contested? Do you think it was unanimous that the Netziv became the Rosh Yeshiva? It was contested. You know who contested it? The Beis Halevi. The Beis Halevi says, I'm the Rav in Brisk, and he contested the appointment of the Netziv. It went to a Din Torah. 4 Gaonim, Rav Yosef of Slutsk, Rav Tevli of Minsk, Rav Zev Hamagrid, Rav Yitzchak Elchanan Spector, Paskind, the Netziv, and only the Netziv, will run the yeshiva. Whereupon, the Netziv became the leader of world Jewry. That was the result of the psak. Then a new movement began, Chibas Tzion, a open expression of love for the return to Eretz Yisrael. The Netziv was an active member of Chibas Tzion. Now, Many went to the Netziv's Shiur. Not everybody was sold right away. For example, Reb Shimon Shkop would say, what sold him on the Netziv's approach to learning? They say, the Netziv and Reb Chaim were polar opposites. The Netziv's opinion was, in order to learn one blot of Gemara, you need to know the whole Shas. You can't learn a blot if you don't know the whole Shas. When you learn the whole Shas, you can understand one blot. Reb Chaim Soloveitchik said, you know how to learn the whole Shas? When you learn one blot of Gemara and you get to the bottom of it and you get to like the core of the blot, you'll know the whole Shas. They had polar opposite approaches. And Reb Shimon Shkop at first was not sold on the Netziv's approach. One night, after midnight, the Netziv comes into the Beis Medrash, and Reb Shimon Shkop, as a bacher or a young man, was delving into a comment of the Rashbam. And the Reb Shimon Shkop goes over to the Netziv and he says, Rebbe, I'm having a hard time with this Rashbam. And the Netziv says, listen to this, do you know how many kvarim I had to visit to understand this Rashbam? Think about that statement. The Netziv says, do you know how many kvarim I needed to visit to understand that Rashbam? Now, I like that statement because that statement really endorses our trip. Because many people would say, kvarim, aren't there better things you could do with your time? Maybe it's better to sit in the Daled Koslei Beis Medrash. It's hard to argue with that. But you see, even a great tzaddik like the Netziv, in order to understand the depth of the sugya, he had to visit multiple kvarim to pour out his heart. In fact, he told his student, Rabbi Zalman Meltzer, that any day that he doesn't cry when he says Ahava Rabbah, he's not able to be mechadesh in his learning. So this was the Netziv. The Netziv was a tremendous masmid. I'll tell you, when he got married, he went into a small room in Volozhin, and he learned there day and night for 20 years. So they came to the Netziv and they say, is it true that you learned 20 hours a day? The Netziv said, no, it's not true. I only learned 16 hours a day. But I learned 16 hours a day Friday, and Shabbos, and Erev Tisha B'Av. I didn't miss one day. As the famous story of the Netziv goes, a bacher once came to the Netziv, and the Netziv says, do you know what learning is? The bacher said, yeah. Do you know what it means to be a masmid? What, Rebbe? The Netziv says, a masmid eats when it's time to eat, sleeps when it's time to sleep, learns when it's time to learn. You ever notice in many yeshivas, the hours between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. are packed? How about at 9:30 when the Seder starts in the morning? Maybe that's not the most glamorous time. The masmid learns when he needs to learn, when he's supposed to learn. He sleeps when he needs to sleep. He eats when he needs to eat. Now, let's come back to the Volozhin yeshiva. Remember, the Beis Halevi was wanted to be appointed the Rosh Yeshiva of the Volozhin yeshiva, and the Gedolim said no, it belongs to the Netziv. But the Briskers eventually got into Volozhin. Here's how they did it. Leave it to the Briskers to figure out a way how to get into Volozhin. The Netziv had a son-in-law, Rav Rafal Shapiro. Rav Rafal Shapiro had a daughter. This is the granddaughter of the Netziv. The Netziv's granddaughter married Reb Chaim Soloveitchik. So the Beis Halevi, the Tata, the father, he couldn't get the job. But now his son is heir apparent to take over the Volozhin yeshiva. You hear this? So the Beis Halevi couldn't get the job. His son is married the granddaughter of the Netziv, and Reb Chaim Brisker starts to give Shiurim in the yeshiva, to the point where the Netziv and Reb Chaim were co-Rosh yeshivas. In fact, there was no decision in the yeshiva that was made without the participation of Reb Chaim Soloveitchik. So he starts giving shiur in the yeshiva in 1880 at 27 years old, and his shiurim garner for him world acclaim. He taught thousands and thousands of talmidim, who many of them became Gedolei Torah. He gave shiur in Volozhin yeshiva for 12 years. Now, in 1852, this is also very important. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the Volozhin yeshiva, and when we finish, the rain will stop. By the way, the Netziv, in his second marriage, married the daughter of the Aruch HaShulchan. You hear this? The Netziv married the daughter of the Aruch HaShulchan. He was 30 years older than her. She ran a good chunk of the yeshiva. Reb Chaim Berlin, you ever hear the yeshiva Chaim Berlin? Chaim Berlin was the son of the Netziv from his first marriage. And his daughter from his first wife married Rafal Shapiro, and their daughter married Reb Chaim Soloveitchik. His son from his second wife was Rabbi Meir Berlin, who later changed his name to Meir Bar Ilan Berlin to Bar Ilan. Bar Ilan University is named after the son of the Netziv, Meir Bar Ilan. Now, 1852, the yeshiva is under tremendous pressure to include secular knowledge in the curriculum, that they should teach Russian and Russian culture. The Netziv's getting older. He's planning on going to Eretz Yisrael. Because you're probably wondering, friends, what country are we in? Are we in Belarus? We're in Poland. So how did the Netziv end up over here? The Netziv was Rosh Yeshiva in Volozhin. Let me explain. He was planning on going to Eretz Yisrael and giving over the running of the yeshiva to his son, Reb Chaim Berlin, and his grandson, Reb Chaim Soloveitchik. But on a Thursday morning, the 5th of Shvat, in 1852, the government came, and because they did not allow, as part of the curriculum, the Russian culture and knowledge, the government closed the Volozhin yeshiva, and everybody had to leave. All the Talmidim had to leave. And they're looking. There's one person remaining in the yeshiva, the Netziv. The Netziv was there, but he fainted. They banished the Netziv from Vilna. He figures, okay, he's going to go to Minsk, and then from there he went to Warsaw, and from there he was going to go to Eretz Yisrael and fulfill his lifelong dream. But when he got to Warsaw, the Netziv had diabetes. He had a stroke here in Warsaw. He lived for 1.5 years, but it was no life. And the day before the Patira of the Netziv, he turns to his son and he says, "My son, many Gedolim say they don't want to be eulogized when they die. But that's wrong. It's wrong to say that. If Chazal say that a hesped does something for the mace, how could we be smarter than Chazal? Therefore, we are not authorized to forego a hesped. But how long the hesped has to be, you'll give me a short hesped, and I ask of you that after the short hesped, everyone should learn a few blot of Gemara instead of the hesped, and that will bring me kairas ruach in Gan Eden." The Netziv taught Torah for 46 years. He was 76 years old when he died. Reb Chaim Berlin said at the Levaya that the Yalkut brings that when the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, the young Kohanim went up to the roof of the Beis HaMikdash. They took their keys in their hands and they said, "Ribbon Shalom, we were not zoicha to be proper treasurers." They took the keys and they threw it heavenward, and a hand came down from heaven and accepted the keys from the Kohanim. Says the son of Rav Chaim Volozhiner. In Volozhin, when Volozhin closed, the Netziv came, he threw the keys of Volozhin up to the Shamayim, and God accepted them. Says the Chafetz Chaim, the Netziv did not have to close the yeshiva. He could have allowed them to learn a period or two of Limudei Chol, but that would have been a slippery slope. And at first it would have been a period or two, and then ultimately there would have been a period or two of Limudei Kodesh. The Netziv understood that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Hamariv Aravim Uvechachma Paisach Sha'arim, that he needed to close the Volozhin yeshiva so that other yeshivas throughout Lithuania and Poland could spring up in the age-old tradition. Says the Chafetz Chaim, if not for the Netziv, who knows if we would still have Torah today. Says the Chafetz Chaim about the Netziv, we say for closing the Volozhin yeshiva, Asher Shibarta, Yasher Kaichacha Sheshibarta. Okay, so we're going to head in briefly into the cemetery. We're going to visit these Ga'inei Olam.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.